The newest chapter of One Piece just came out, chapter 1153, called The Birth of Loki. And oh my goodness, stay with me guys, because there is a lot of information in this video and throughout all of this chapter. And now hear me out. So throughout the first chapter, the cover page, we get Yamato that's getting reunited with Kiku. And we know Kiku, from Wano Kuni. She was one of the samurais as well. And she actually became the daimyo of Ringo. And next to them, we can see the Yakuza boss called Ochu. And Ochu is, of course, here to, help out with everything that's going on and all of that. But right as we jump in the chapter again, we jump to literally the backstory again, because that's what I was guessing that's gonna happen, and that's probably what's gonna still happen in the next 2 to 3 chapters. That way we have like the whole backstory of the birth of Loki and what happened to the giants and what happened to them in general. And so from the first page, we are back to the age when King Harold was still a child, and we can also see that Dorian Broggy were also children at the same time, so they were all like childhood friends in a way. And as they were growing up in Elbaf, you can also see that King Harold, due to his ancient blood that was in him, he grew up way bigger than all of the other giants, and he was a little bit more stronger too. So that made him a little bit more arrogant towards kind of everybody, because he felt like he was the strongest because he was the biggest, So he felt like empowered to do anything he wanted, And from there, you can see that the King Harold now is going on adventures around the whole world, maybe. And in the new world, in a kingdom that's called the Bannet Kingdom, we have something very serious that happens. So King Harold is able to see that in that kingdom, there is actually a giant that's imprisoned, and that giant looks like it's made into a show or something, where the giant woman in this case got captured, and she is literally the show where people can pay some money and come and check the giant, for their first time. And since King Harold is like, how dare you bring a giant down like that or whatever, he literally demolished everything in that country and he freed that giant. And that giant woman is called Ida. And Ida has a lot of personality and has a lot of character, because literally she was pissed that he actually saved her. And the scene that happened in here in the chapter is that literally she bitch slapped him so hard. Literally, he never knew a slap so hard in his life. First, by a woman. Literally, it looks like from the face he had, literally, it looks like he never even got touched his whole life. And it's an absolute shock that somebody dared to actually do what she did to him, And that was absolutely super funny to actually witness. And from there, Ida is still saying, turn the ship around. We need to go back and apologize because all of what you did was actually wrong. And he's like, what the fuck? Like, I don't understand. But as soon as he said that, she's like, yeah, actually those people, they helped me recover from whatever happened to her in the past. And they found that, by repaying them a little bit, she can do some work. And that's the work she found. So there's no animosity. There's nothing wrong going on per se with everything that's going on. They're literally just playing an act so that they can make money and so that Ida and her people are all good, And in here, she also says to King Harold something very specific that truly went to the heart of King Harold, and she tells him, you call them just little dolls just because you were born stronger and bigger than them? You are so arrogant, thinking you're so much better than humans. Shame on you. This is why some people think all giants are savages in Elbaf. And she's not wrong about that, And as you jump in again to the next page and all of that, you can see that King Harold, of course, is like, okay, I understand. I made a mistake. I'm going to go back and I'm going to say sorry. And in this page, you can see that he is actually saying sorry to the king of that kingdom that Ida was in. And after that, They just started on partying, started on discovering, what's going on, how can we trade, what's these flavors and all of that. And at the same time, we can see that King Harold is doing, the Nika dance and all that. That's funny. And at the same time, the giants are helping rebuild everything that they kind of destroyed. And they also started going on adventures, because from there, we learned that Ida actually comes from an island called the Samunai Island in the South Blue. And I'm probably guessing that there might be like a colony or like some form of immigrant giants that went over there to the South Blue, and they immigrated to the Samunai Island. And that's probably, I'm guessing, where Seoul also comes from. Because, there's not going to be that many places around the world where giants are going to come from. So when we get a source outside of Elbaf where, giants come from, maybe that's where Seoul is coming from too. You never know. And as they're talking, King Harold is saying to her, so you crossed the blood-soaked serpent. And she's saying, you mean the red line? And he's like, yeah, I did. So I couldn't go back. So what does it mean? Does it mean that in here we have a confirmation that the blood-soaked serpent that we've been talking about, that we know about for, years and years, is now saying that it is actually the red line? So let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. So let me tell you something first. From back in the day, when at the first time when Luffy met Dorian Bragi, the both of them said clearly per se that the only thing that they cannot win against, or with a weapon like slash or whatever, is something called the blood-soaked serpent. And we never knew like literally what it was. Maybe it's literally just like it says, like the blood-soaked serpent, so like a serpent that's red or something. So from theories, we were like, maybe it's the serpent that's, in the sky and all of that. But no, because he's not red. So what is it that's maybe red and maybe very long? Like super, super, super long. And from the Harlem text again, we can also see that there was a god that was super, super long, and he was maybe red. So from that perspective, you can also relate the god to the blood-soaked serpent to the red line. And maybe the way it died is the way it made the red line around the One Piece world, And throughout this video, we're gonna be talking about some more stuff, so stay with me. And from there, we can also see that King Harold, through his adventures with Ida, going around and really discovering the world on how it really should be discovered, even his crew, he's saying King Harold has totally changed. It's a weird feeling, surely it won't last long. And then 105 years ago in Elbaf. So from the previous chapter, it's been like 2 years, kind of, because we were in 107 years ago, and now we are at 105 years ago. And now King Harold is back into his country, into Elbaf. And that's where the problem starts. Because now that King Harold came with his new mentality, or whatever, his mentality saying that, yes, we should start trading with people, we should start, being more nicer to people and not stop and not destroy everything just because we're bigger than everybody, And not everybody is, of course, agreeing to it, but we can see the two oldest giants in here, they are actually, things have really changed. And then the other one is saying guest meeting is a key part of traveling. So they're kind of agreeing to what's going on. Not agreeing, of course, to renounce to their warrior sides, but they are agreeing to, going outside of their country and doing some trade and moving out of the misery where they maybe are, of always fighting and all of that against each other to see who's going to be conquering everything. Like it's gotta be tiring at some point. And right at the next page, you can still see King Harold is now going around the world and trying to be a diplomat. He's trying to be a diplomat so that, he can start trading what they have in Elbaf with what other people in other countries have, so that he can bring new flavors and new everything to his country. And from here, he's going on saying, for example, sending diplomats to each other. And so like exchanging hostages then? Maybe, If there's hostages on the both sides, if they're diplomats enough in between each other, they can start on trading too. And then you jump into 81 years ago in Elbaf, in the east of the kingdom, called the Fisherman's Village. And that's where we assist to the birth of a child. And it's the child of King Harold and Ida. And they had, of course, Hajruddin. And Hajruddin is so cute, like as a baby, as you can see him. But at the same time, you can see that there's a huge problem, because the union of King Harold and Ida has never been approved by the elders or the royal family that accepts only pure-blooded giants into the family and into the bloodline in a way. So having Hajruddin with Ida was a blasphemy in a way for King Harold. And that's why right as they had literally Hajruddin, King Harold and Ida have to separate so that they can follow the traditions of Elbaf, because their situation is really dire at this point, I guess. And from here, the next page, we see the next wife that King Harold is going to be having. And oh, Lord have mercy on that woman. Because that woman is literally the most hateful woman you will expect, but you don't even know it yet. And as she presents herself, she's called Estrid, and she comes from the Saki village in Elbaf, and she's the daughter of a powerful man and all of that. And she's like, yes, King Harold, I am the one, I am the pure-blooded, I am the one who's accepted by everybody, so I was destined to marry you, or whatever. Bullshit. But still, all of that, and he accepts just to, keep on going with the traditions so that everybody agrees on the same, and everybody is on the same page and all of that. And from there, she gives him also a horse that is so big and has, like, instead of his regular hair on his back, he's got like literally like fire or something coming out of him weirdly. And he's got also 8 legs. And everybody's looking at that horse like, what the hell? What is that horse coming from? And it's called Ashura. And weirdly, this horse looks a little bit like the horse that one of the Gorosei had, that has a sword that can transform into a half human and half horse or something like that. So like this horse kind of looks a little bit like that transformation in a way. Just spitting out what's going on. Never know if it's really true, but hey, we'll see. And from there, the gold digger appears. Estrid, she says, soldiers, bring the jewels and gold to my chambers. This shall make the winds of luck favor our land, and tell the servants that from now on his majesty and I shall eat only from silver bowls. Literally, just like I'm telling you, the gold digger appeared. And as she appeared, King Harold, just to continue whatever he had in mind, in here he says, roughly 70 years ago, in this era, the rough seas made communications between islands extremely difficult. Though Elbaf's advanced navigational skills aroused the interest of other nations. So with that technology that Elbaf was able to actually give to the world, they were able to navigate better throughout the Grand Line and all of that. And throughout all of this, when he came back, every time he comes back, just like in here, he's talking to his people, and his people are like, so where did you go? What did you see? And all of that. And you can see that he visited a lot of places like the Fishman Island. He actually saw the Ryogyu kingdom of the Fishman Island, and he saw the birth of the prince that was called Neptune. And we all know Neptune, but it's so funny that King Harold saw Neptune when he was born, when he was literally a baby. And they say in here, they celebrated with a grand feast at the bottom of the sea. And then 63 years ago in Orist Castle, while Harold was out on an expedition, the baby was born. Loki was born. And as soon as Loki opened his eyes and saw his mother got one of the biggest postpartum depression we can ever see in an anime. Because just from the sight of her child, she absolutely hated him, to the point where she renounced to even giving birth to Loki, and she literally picked him up and zoo dropped him off into the world of the dead. And so from there, well, you got little Loki falling, the poor guy, into the world of the dead, so you expect him to die. But if you thought that Loki was that weak, oh hell no. Because as he got literally dropped in there, he survived. His body was actually way stronger than everybody can think. So from surviving, he started actually climbing back the whole tree so that he goes back to where he came from. But as Estrid heard that news, she got so paranoid. She wanted to go back to her village and all of that, but she got so paranoid that literally she got sick from it and died from that. But right before she died, she also gave something. She also said something, and what she said was, from now on, anything that happens to Elbaf is the fault of Loki, and one day King Harold will come to die from the hands of his own son, Loki. So basically, she's the one who spread that false news in a way into the world, saying that he's the one, he's the one, he's the one. But I don't understand how she can blame her own kid over just being ugly for her in a way. Like she doesn't approve of how his eyes were, and that's why like she took it so bad that she literally did not even want to do anything with him anymore, which is super depressing. But at least we saw that Loki was able to survive. And from perspective, from, you know, the kind of eyes he's got, and from theories I've been seeing online here and there, and from what I also can guess, because you know, we're not going to be talking about something in the chapter and then it doesn't have any relationship to anything else in the chapter. So if we talk, for example, about the blood-soaked serpent, for example, and then we get to see the eyes of Loki, maybe it's got a relationship. And from perspective, now hear me out, crazy time, crazy theory time, maybe as the god, the serpent, the red serpent god that got transformed or that died and became the red line, maybe its reincarnation right now, currently, is Loki. And those eyes are actually the clue to it. And maybe so, just like I said, he's the reincarnation of that god. So maybe now on this side, you will have Luffy and the other god that are going to be on this side fighting him, you know? So maybe that's a theory. Let me know what you think in the comments below, guys. But this was the review of the chapter 1153. So let me know what you think, guys, of this whole chapter in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Very important, guys, that you subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.